Assalamu alaikum, welcome back to my channel. My name is Shireen Palestine, and if you are new here, a special welcome to you. Today I'm doing something very exciting, my vanishing green cheese sambooseh. You can create any kind of shape you want with this recipe, but I assure you, this recipe is gonna have your guests coming back for more. If you wanna know how to make this fuss-free sambooseh, just keep watching. Alright, here we go. So to a bowl, I am going to be adding all-purpose flour and cornstarch. And the cornstarch is very important because it makes our sambooseh very light and airy. But if you add too much, it will make it rock hard. So the exact measurements are in the description box where the recipe is. To that, I will be adding, of course, some salt and some black seed. Guys, this is also called Black Caraway. It has many nicknames, but if I could describe it, it is crunchy. It has a very nice crunch and it almost tastes like pine. Not like pine nuts, but like pine. It's very, very good. You can opt out of putting it into the dough and put it into the cheese filling. That's up to you. Okay, so a little bit of turmeric, and this is anti-inflammatory, which is why I like it. And it also gives our sambooseh a little bit of color. Next, I'm going to be adding only 1 tablespoon of vegetable oil. Too much will make it very dense. And of course, finally, I'm going to add my water. And I'm going to knead this until it is well combined and it is very soft. And after kneading it, I'm going to set aside and let it rest while I make my cheese filling. Now, when you are making small batches of dough, always reserve some of the flour to the side, because the way that we measure things can differ between person to person and even between measuring cup to measuring cup. So always put about 1/4 of a cup to 1/2 a cup to the side and add it slowly, keeping an eye on your dough to make sure that everything is coming together nicely. People use heaping tablespoons, some people use leveled tablespoons, which is what I do. It is exact measurements. And some people don't use tablespoons at all, they just go by looks. So that's why, guys, keep a little bit on the side to make sure everything is going well. Okay, for the cheese, it is very important that you use low moisture mozzarella so it doesn't wet your sambooseh. This is a pound. I'm going to be using 75% of that pound, okay, 3/4. I'm also going to be using queso fresco, and that's because it has a lot of flavor, and I'm going to be only using 1/4 of that. And finally, cream cheese, and I eyeballed like 1/4 of the cream cheese packet, which was literally 1/4 of a cup. Perfectly. And honestly, I'm not gonna lie, the string cheese makes the best sambooseh, all right? And I always have it on hand because my children go between really loving it and just losing complete interest, so it's always in the fridge. And if I could choose between the other mozzarella and this one, I would choose the string cheese hands down. It makes bomb sambooseh. Okay, next I am going to be adding either cilantro or parsley. I have cilantro here, and I usually used to add only parsley, but one day I was out of parsley and I only had cilantro, and I used cilantro, and everyone was like, "This is so good," so I just kept doing it. Now this is optional. You can add a chili pepper or a jalapeno, and I'm not going to do that today because my son requested that I don't. Now you can chop the cilantro and grate the cheese on a cheese grater, but using the food processor is going to make that cheese really combine with that fresh, bright cilantro flavor and turn it into a beautiful and very attractive green. There's also another reason why I do it, and that is because when you're combining different kinds of cheeses, like cream cheese and mozzarella, you want to combine it very nicely to get a very cool cheese pool when you bite into it. So I like to use a very small food processor for this. So I'm adding 1/4 of the queso fresco now. And I realized my food processor was a little tired, so I just put it into a bowl. Guys, I actually blew the fuses in my kitchen doing this. That's all right because that queso fresco does crumble very nicely. Now I'm going to be adding some white sesame seeds, toasted of course. Now this is optional, but I will say it does complement the cheese very well. Don't add too much so it doesn't become heavy, but just enough that it adds another layer of flavor and texture. Now with clean hands, I'm going to combine the cream cheese into the mixture until I can create a ball. Onto the rolling and stuffing. This is my favorite part. I grew up using this. This is a dumpling press or an empanada press, and this is actually my children's. They chose it for last year's Eid gift. I told them choose anything and they chose a set of these. So we're going to be using that to create our sambooseh. Our dough has rested, and it was actually an hour before I got to my dough just because I was filming, but look at how stretchy and how beautiful that dough is. It is so relaxed. Now, taking a little ball, I am going to be creating a circle. Now, you don't have to be too specific, and I will say the first 2 to 3 samboosehs are going to be very ugly for whatever reason, and then you're going to get really good at it. Don't be too hard on yourself. You are just figuring out how big you want your dough ball to be in accordance with the size of the press that you're using. Once I close that press very, very tightly, I am going to be pressing the dough down in one direction, and that is because I don't want it to suction back open, which it will if you don't do this. This will give you the cleanest embossed edge, and it looks like a little sunshine. So it's actually really, really pretty, and it cuts the fuss out of trying to make them look really uniform and really pretty, and it saves me some time, especially during Ramadan. Now notice I am going to be flattening that bottom out. So once I close it, I'm going to flatten that, and you can either tap it with your finger or just stand it up and press it against the table since the table is flat. And the reason why I do that is also for uniformity, because depending on how you put that cheese ball in, it'll look different. When you put your little circle of dough, don't press the whole dough into the press, just the edges, so that you don't get a very wonky and stretched out sambooseh. So you notice I'm only pushing the edges into the grooves of the press, and that is it. And you don't even want to go overboard, because as you close it, it'll kind of smush out. So don't try to cover the entire press and then some. Just enough so that the dough holds on to the ridges while you are closing it. Now, let me demonstrate when you don't push the dough down. So if you pay attention really closely, I actually suction back open the entire sambooseh. So that's because I did not push the dough down in one direction before popping that mold back open. All right, so remember guys, push it down in one direction. And I also want to comment, you guys can do this with flour. I did it without flour, and I did put it on a parchment paper so it wouldn't stick to the table. And if you don't have time to make homemade dough, guys, just buy the store-bought ones. I do it all the time. Okay, yay. Now on to the final step, which is deep frying, which is gonna give you the best results, deep frying. I'm going to be tossing in a piece of raw dough, and I know my oil is ready when it floats to the top. Do not overcrowd your pot to get the best results. Now I have this on medium-high heat, okay? And I am going to make sure that every time I take out those samboosehs, I do not leave the oil unattended, okay? So turn down that oil or turn it off. But oh my goodness, look at that. Look at that. So that your oil does not overheat. Pro tip, if the cheese is starting to seep out of the sambooseh, you're A, either cooking it way too long, B, your sambooseh is not sealed properly, or C, the black seed that we used created a little tear in the sambooseh. So don't roll the dough too thin, and problem solved. Now put them on a cooling rack so that all the excess oil drips away, and finish frying those beautiful babies. And then it is time to serve them. And I love to serve this during Ramadan with a fresh, bright, cold drink as a starter when people are breaking their fast. This is kerkade, a Middle Eastern hibiscus drink, and you can find this on my channel. Click the I above to find the video. Yay! And now we are done with our fuss-free, eye-catching green cheese sambooseh. Enjoy! guys, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed creating this recipe and the video and eating it. Please don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you in next week's video. If you haven't seen the last video, you can click it in the upper left-hand corner.